Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of my wonderful and beautiful little subscribers out there. And how I love you all so, and I hope that you're all super duper well, super duper wonderful, and super duper delicious, and that life is treating you most deliciously. And I hope that we're feeling the love, that we continue to feel the love. Okay, my delicious little babies now then. So what's the time, Mr. Wolf? So it's 8 minutes past 9 in the evening, my delicious babies, in our old England, and it's very dark. It's very cold, actually. Sorry, excuse me. It is certainly not very warm, my delicious little babies. It's gone most chilly, or somebody needs to keep a handle on it. Okay, my delicious little babies, what do we do? 3, 2, 1, my juicy little lads. Let's try and see, can we get them on? Bloody switches. Oh, we haven't party. We haven't party. Okay, my delicious little babies, yeah, so it's rather chilly billy outside. Okay, my delicious little babies. Now then, so what have I got for you today, my delicious little babies? Sorry, excuse me, I'm rather late doing my video. I wasn't going to put one out, actually, but then I changed my mind. Okay, my delicious little babies, now then. So let's go, oh, sorry, and before I begin, I hope that life is treating you most deliciously wherever you are in the world, and how I love you all so, my delicious little ones out there. Now then, okay, so, right, said Fred. Let's talk about, hold on, let me just begin by saying, where do I begin? Right, so it appears that something has been happening in Houston, Texas, my delicious babies. Now, how true this is, I do not know. But I've seen it on a few channels now, okay? So it seems to be making the rounds, my delicious babies. Now, apparently what this is all to do with is a spring break. Now, I'm not sure. I mean, it's the first I've heard about it. You know, anybody who's American or anything like this now, then you will know about that, my little lovelies, okay? But for myself, I knew nothing about it. Anyway, and well, apparently 42,000. I'm not talking to any of my delicious little babies who already know about this. I'm talking to our my delicious little babies who are not aware of this. Well, apparently 42,000 mankind, okay, to do this spring break in Houston, Texas, it appears have received, let's just say, every single STD, sexually transmitted disease, they call it, from this spring break. Okay, now for some, they have broke out in what is it, like these, what do you call them? These lumps all over the face and everything, like scabs and things like this now then, okay? Now, what is it that I've got to say here, my delicious babies? Well, firstly, what struck myself was that it was 42. So 4 and 2 makes 6, doesn't it, my delicious little babies? Okay, so that, you know, it's to do with that. I've got really itchy face this evening. So that stood out to myself straight away. Okay, my delicious little babies. So that's that. Now, the other thing is, if this is true, which I don't know, okay, I don't know, okay. If it is, who's to say that this is not from the jibber jab? Okay, my delicious little babies, because as we very well know, since so many years ago, mardelijk babies, when something took place, as we very well know. Okay, COVID. The thing is, you had what you call the dummy injections for some, because I worked it all out more or less straight away. Mardelijk babies, what was going on here. And very sadly, others were very sadly injected with something else. I'm not talking about the little effers who pushed it on different platforms and the poxy box in the corner of the room. I'm not talking about those. I couldn't give a damn about those. Okay? Old fashioned Jamaican saying, they will get, let's just say, what the duck given. You know what I mean? For all of their deceit. Okay, mad little babies, so I couldn't give a fiddler's F about those one bit. Okay, mad little babies, and that's not myself being a bitch. I actually feel I'm being rather nice under the circumstances. Anyway, mad little babies, so who's to say? Because if you're mixing bodily fluids, okay, well, and especially if you have had an injectable, maybe that doesn't mean no. Maybe there could be something else that's passing there we are around. Okay, mad babies, but it's just very interesting, the number, isn't it? I'm not laughing. 42,000, very interesting. Either this is a total exaggeration, or it may not be an exaggeration. Like I said, I cannot say right now, okay? But looking at some of the victims, it seems, they seem to have a lot of very severe skin conditions, my delicious little babies. And from what I can see, it's going to take some, bless them. And I will say that, bless them. Some treatments, there we are, to help them to recover. Okay, my delicious little babies, so we can only hope that they recover. Okay, my delicious little babies. But yeah, so I just thought I'd tell it you, okay? But like I said, whether that number is correct or not, I do not know. Okay, my delicious little babies. But again, I spoke about, to do with the jibber jab, I spoke about it years ago, my delicious little babies, okay? I also had videos removed, and basically, I am totally, there we are, shadow banned. Okay, my little babies. So, and what my thought was at that particular time was that if you've got, say, even if you've got a couple in a loving relationship, so you've got one who decided not to take anything, and then you've got, very sadly, the other who chose to take something. Well, if you're exchanging bodily fluids, you know what I'm talking about, Martin babies. Well, what is that going to do? Okay, Martin babies. So I would say I find it very hard to understand that 42,000 mankind have all come down poorly like this. There's got to be, there we are, something else. But like I said, who has diggled with the numbers? There we are. There we are. Do you see what I mean, Martin babies? It just sounds an awful lot to myself for ones all to be in the same place, and and for a lot of them come down with something that seems all rather odd to myself. Anyway, Martin babies. But if it is the case, I really hope that they all get better, bless. Okay, they may think twice about. Shall we say, for some of them, if they enjoy rumble in the jungle, they may think twice about it next time, my delicious little babies, you know what I mean? Because you've got everything from HIV and everything. Well, for a start off, there isn't a piece of paper in the world that proves that HIV, AIDS even existed. I would have said, my delicious babies, that it wasn't the fact that somebody had HIV or AIDS. I would have said that it was the medication, there we are, that one was receiving. We only have to look at, what is that injectable now called, is it, oh gosh, Ozempic or something. It's where to make one slim. We are seeing in the celebrity world mardelijk babies where they're looking like not far off skeletons. Okay, mardelijk babies, that is how they're looking. They're looking very, in my view, very unhealthy. Okay, there's one thing when ones want to lose weight, mardelijk babies. There's one thing when you know you do it bit by bit. Okay, mardelijk babies, and that could take months. Okay, mardelijk babies, to get to your target weight. Okay, so there's one thing doing that. You lose a number of pounds, or some say a few pounds, a number of pounds, but you want to get yourself down to a healthy weight. But it's quite another thing when you take an injectable to lose weight, mardelijk babies, okay? And it seems to have a very, from what I can see, a severely, well, devastating effect on one's body and looks. I mean, we can only imagine, you know what I mean, what it's doing to their insides as well, mardelijk babies. It's very serious, isn't it? So it's very clear to myself, there we are, mardelijk babies. Something is very wrong, isn't it? There we are, that's my view. You would never see myself, not in a million years, mardelijk babies, take any kind of injectable like that now. If I'm carrying, a number of pounds, well, I'm carrying a number of pounds, I'm hardly going to cry about it. You know what I mean, mardelijk babies? It keeps myself warm at night. Do you know what I mean, mardelijk babies? So, but I wouldn't go to those lengths, and even for a lot of these celebrities, why go and do something like that to themselves? Didn't they, for a lot of them, didn't they keep themselves in shape anyway? So it just doesn't make sense, does it, mardelijk babies? There's something that we are totally wrong. Okay, and it's not really showing many signs of improving at the moment, mardelijk babies, very sadly, okay? But anyway, so that's the first thing, mardelijk babies, there's always something. Now then, mardelijk babies, so the next one is, I briefly saw Scott Ritter. This is to do with, I'm not talking to any of our mardelijk babies who know Scott Ritter, I'm talking to our mardelijk babies who do not. Well, is it Scott Ritter? Only from what I saw, okay? Whether it's true or not, I do not know. Okay, apparently he has been blocked by, it's all right, so it's tickling my head. He's been blocked by Trouble Trump's administration, mardelijk babies. So I just thought I'd mention that. Now then, I've also got some sad news. So there's a dear elderly woman who used to live up the road from myself, mardelijk babies, okay? And I thought I hadn't seen that. I've seen her for the last time when, she was going out in a wheelchair. Oh, she's so tiny and petite, really petite. And I said, what are you going to have to eat? And, I said her name. I said, good afternoon. And then, because the family were taking her out. And they said, she will not eat a lot. They said she'll just make a decision when she gets there because she's just so tiny and petite. Anyway, bless her dear little heart. She was suffering with really bad breathing difficulties, for a number of years. Mardelijk babies, oh, bless her beautiful dear little soul. She passed away. Was it 7th of March? Bless her. I thought I'll wait until I see somebody who lived near to her so I could, ask, because I thought something was really odd. Anyway, but at least the last time that I seen her, because I used to wave every day when I used to walk past, you see, past her home, and you know, well, I just thought something was very odd. I thought, well, there's something not right, and the blind's just everything. But yeah, bless her beautiful dear little soul. I hope that she's reached the next place where she's gone mad to lick babies, because she wouldn't be in any more breathing difficulties anymore, mad to lick babies. And it was just very sad news, so may she rest in peace. Um, anyway, mad to lick babies, yeah, it's the 28th of March today, 2026. Anyway, um, the other piece of sad news, I thought, is this for real? Our lovely, with anybody not in that way, not in that way, our lovely Alex Belfield. Well, apparently, is being locked up again. Okay, Martin. Now, this is all wrong, isn't it? I mean, come on, we have seen, haven't we, Martin babies over this number of years? You know, even if somebody, sends a tweet, even if somebody sends a tweet, my delicious little babies, do you know what I mean? And then they get into trouble. Why couldn't they just leave the poor man alone? There we are. Why couldn't they just leave the poor man alone? Do you know what I mean, my delicious babies? Now, I know for some out there that maybe it's just a figure of speech. It's just a saying, my delicious babies, okay? But for some, maybe their spirit never took to Alex Belfield, okay? But for myself, I happened to enjoy listening to himself, okay? That's me personally, not in that way, not in that way. I mean, he could make the cat laugh, bless him, do you know what I mean? But, what is the reason for putting him back behind bars, my delicious babies? It's just all wrong. And what about his beautiful little baby, his little daughter, little Dottie? Do you know what I mean? She had a Papa Bear back, bless. And now he's gone again. She's probably, bless her, she's probably all confused. I mean, I'm sure that he's got lovely family members, who will look after his little Dottie. But that's not the point. The poor little baby will be confused. You know what I mean? 1 minute a Papa Bear's there, next minute he's not. Well, bless you, dear Alex Belfield, okay? Because I feel it's totally wrong, what they're doing to you. And I hope you're going to be all right, our little lovely. Oh, it's always sad news. Anyway, I felt really upset when I heard that, Martin, the babies. And of course, I heard about the dear elderly woman up the road, bless her, you know what I mean? Anyway, Martin, the babies, now we got the final one for this evening. And this is right, okay. So I was looking through videos to see what I could find, my delicious babies, okay? And, well, according to this uploader, and again, not in that way, not in that way, I've never seen this uploader personally before. So if any of your beautiful souls have seen this uploader, then that's fair enough. But I personally have not, okay? Now, this uploader happens to have 163,000 subscribers, my delicious little babies, okay? The uploader, now this is all together, 3 words together, my delicious little babies. So it's a capital M, minutes, capital O of, capital H, horror, as in horror film. Okay, my delicious babies. So it's 3 words together, minutes of horror. capital M and capital O. Okay, my delicious babies. Now, this video here is just over 8.5 minutes long. My delicious babies. I just needed to try to remember there. Okay, it's all right. I'm not losing my noddle. It's just that there we are. I just look at that. There we are. I just look at that many videos, and then I make a decision what I'm going to give out. Do you see what I mean? And for anybody who's new to my channel, thank you. And thank you to all of my wonderful, delicious little babies who are already subscribed to myself. Well, the thing is, I do it as a hobby. This is merely as a hobby, okay? And I happen to enjoy my little hobby, okay? But this one here is why, this is the title, My Delicious Babies, is no one talking about this? Okay, my delicious babies, so I'm just going to repeat this again for you. Why is no one talking about this? Okay, my delicious babies, so what we're going to do is I'm going to close my book now, okay, because we need to go back to where we need to go back to, okay? Close my book, we go backwards. Okay, so there we are. Oh, I didn't want to knock my camera too much, it might bloody fall down again. Anyway, I'm just going to have a sip of my orange. It's just orange juice today, my delicious babies, please and thank you. I slurped a bit then. Sorry, my delicious babies. Anyway, sorry about that. Anyway, so what is this about? This is about now. The uploader has said that what he had to do because this was in Spanish. Okay, my delicious babies. So he had to get it translated. To English, okay, my delicious baby, so he could understand what he, clearly what he was hearing or reading, I should presume. And this is about a woman, a professor, who, and this is very serious actually, my delicious babies. Now, what the uploader's saying, sorry, just set me on overrunning my tail. What the uploader's saying is that he's noticed that nobody's other channels not talking about this. Okay, my delicious babies. And what this is about, this is a professor. Now, she is from Argentinian heritage. Okay, she is married and she has got little bairns. But what happened was she got caught stealing viruses out of a lab. My delicious babies out of a lab. You know what I mean? My delicious babies anyway. So it seems that she's got away with this because, and the reason why she got away with it is because she said she had well, they call them children, don't they? Remember the wren? I call them little bairns. So because she's got little bairns, she got away with it. Okay? Now, part of this video as well is to do with little birdies, poor beautiful little birdies, falling out the sky. Now, I have seen over the months a number, there we are, of these videos, like where you've got like a whole flock of birdies, little birdies, beautiful little birdies, and they just passed away. Just dropping from the sky, my delicious little babies. Okay, so there's part of that in this. Okay, but what the uploader's talking about, basically, long and short of it is that you go further on down the rabbit hole. That's his exact words, my delicious little babies. Okay, then you find out more things now. Okay, well, the point is, what are these viruses? There we are. This is the simple thing. This is a question that we're asking, my delicious little babies. What are these viruses? And furthermore, why was she? There we are. Why was she stealing them? What is this about? My delicious little babies. She says, I'm saying. So we need to question this. So for myself, I would agree with the uploader here. there we are. Well, why isn't any others talking about this? I mean, it could very well be because it's Spanish and everything. Do you understand what I mean? I don't know. It could be that, that ones would not be able to understand. I mean, I do not understand Spanish, probably the odd words. Do you know what I mean, Mardelistic babies? But, well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, there we are. That is very serious. But for her to get away with it, so there we are. What's all that about? If it was anybody else, whether you've got a small family or not, Mardelistic babies, for a lot of judges, they really couldn't give a fiddler's F, you know what I mean? So what is it about her? Well, because she's a professor. What's that got to do with the price of flipping fish? Absolutely flipping nothing at all, isn't it? This is very serious. So what would she be doing, there we are, with these viruses? These are all questions, Mardelistic babies, okay? And that's where I'm going to end it now, because you see, some believe in viruses and some do not believe. Okay, this is, a conversation for another day, okay? Some believe in them, some do not, okay? But the point is, what I'm talking about here, okay, to do this video, is that what is in these, what she stole. That's what we want to know. Do you see what I mean, Mardelistic babies? So I'm not shouting at yourselves. You know I'd never do that, Mardelistic babies. Anyway, so, yeah, well worth a little listen to that video, Mardelistic babies. Like I said, I've never seen this uploaded before, okay? So, I just came across it and I thought, you know what? I thought this is important. So maybe somebody out there, for some of our delicious babies, maybe or for the alternative media now, there we are, maybe they might be able to find out a bit more. Do you understand what I mean? Okay, but well spotted, there we are, not in that way, well spotted to the dear uploader there, okay, my delicious babies, yeah, because these things now, there we are, should certainly be talked about. Because, if you're going to take something like that, even if she's not physically doing something herself, well, you wouldn't just take something like that. There's got to be something far more, there we are, behind this. Do you see what I mean? Okay, but it's whoever else could unleash whatever's bloody in, whatever it is. Do you know what I mean, my delicious babies? Anyway, and finally, so I had a phone call today. That's what just reminded me of something else. Well, no, it hasn't reminded me. It's just on my nodder now. So I had a phone call today, Martin Stuck Babies, and this is from a young man who I know. Not in that way. And he's only in his, 30s. Okay, Martin Stuck Babies, and he called me. I said, you all right? And he said no. He said, I needed to speak to you. I said, okay. I said, what is it to do with? He said, there's something wrong. He said, this is because I said, are you feeling depressed? He said, yes. Now, this particular young man who I'm talking about, he's very much, because he's buying his own home. He works a lot of hours, okay? But what he's saying is he's got no motivation. For some reason, he doesn't feel motivated at all, okay? But the way it come across to myself that he's suffering with depression, narcissistic baby. So I give him some advice. And well, and plus the fact that what he's talking about is he said he wants to look for a spouse Not myself, Master Babes. We were having a conversation I'm talking about. And he seems to be feeling down about a lot of things. And he also said that when he's not working, he said all he wants to do is sleep. Okay? Well, that is, there we are, for some, a form, there we are, of depression. Okay, martyristic babies, but um, well, anyway, I'm not going to say anything more about this conversation, okay? What is the point that I'm making with what I've just told you, martyristic babies? Um, you can only advise somebody, there we are, to the best of one's ability. That's all you can do. But looking back in the past, I really do not feel helps anybody's situation at all. Okay? And I said to him, I said, so this, strange. I says, words to effect. I said, it's ever so strange. I says, because I was talking about relationships. I said on my video, which nothing was rehearsed yesterday. It was just something I was just talking about. And he said, well, I wanted to call you. He says, because you're a woman. I thought, well, yes, last time I looked at myself, I'm all woman. Okay, Martin, babies, okay? I'm being serious anyway. Let me be serious. I'm not larking, okay? Anyway. And he said, you would be better to advise me because I've got no one else to talk to. So, again, Martinistic babies, and I was actually talking to somebody else. Who was I talking to? It was a woman. And we were talking only in the past days. And we were saying that what it is that when it comes to depression and everything, men, could be any age group, martyristic babies, but they seem to suffer, there we are, a lot more with depression, martyristic babies. Do you understand what I mean? Okay? So, for myself, I thought, well, it's better not to put the dog and bone down, and it's better to speak to him and, to give him the best advice that I could give. But this is what I'm saying, martyristic babies. We get back to this again, don't we? You can live for work, can't you? But of course, you can run yourself into the ground to buy a house, to do everything, when even though it should be everybody's land, it's clearly not, is it? But there's many who just do not know that, do they, martyristic babies? You could, the bricks will be yours, but that's about it. There we are. Okay, martyristic babies, okay, but there's a lot who do not know that. And if you try to talk to the average, they're not, for one reason or another, they could be busy, they could have busy lives, okay? But very sadly, they do not want to hear it. So, as I explained to him, I said, look, I said, you mustn't, I said, I know that you're buying your house and everything. I said, but what you must also do is not just solely let work overrun your life. And then the phone cut off. Because it does. The reception's terrible in my flat, honestly, it's flipping dire. Do you know what I mean? It's flipping lethal. And then he came back to me because we got cut off. Then the next time his battery, it went flat. So then he called me back again. And I said, I can only hope, I said, that you've taken my advice. That's all I can hope. But depression is a terrible thing, martyristic babies, but if you do not even feel like, do you know what I mean? So when he's not working, he said all he wants to do is sit, whereas before, he said, he said, oh, for me to go to the gym and everything. He says, but I've just lost total, there we are, motivation to do anything. He said, and I do not have another woman to talk to. So I presume, because I know his mummy bear's still here, bless. So, but I presume maybe he doesn't want to worry, doesn't want to discuss. Do you understand what I mean? Okay. So, yes, I mean, it was very, shall we say, well, I mean, I suppose it was, a very nice thing to say that, to talk to myself. Because he said to me, because you know all about these things. That's what he said to me. He says, you know all about these things. You see what I mean? Okay. And I said, yes. I said, but you will find, I said, a new girlfriend. This is exactly what I said to him, Martin Lishnick Babies. I said, but here's the thing. I said, when you meet her, I said, don't just look at her face, Beatrice, or, politely speaking, the size of her breasts or her bum or whatever else. I said, you have to be able to form a conversation with her. I said, you also need to be able to look at her and say to yourself, can I see myself waking up every day with that woman? I said, there's all of these different, I said, in fact, I said, make a list of the type of woman that you want. I said, so if you like brown eyes, I said, write down brown eyes. If you like green eyes, if you like blue eyes, I said, write it down. I said, write down how tall you'd like her to be. I said, write down, I said, if you're interested in what job she does, fair enough. If you're not, just blank it. Just leave that blank. I said, write everything down. What would you would like to find in your future girlfriend or your future wife? And he said, all right. He said he will do it. And then the phone just cut off again. He called me back and then he said, I'll call you later. I said, all right, you know what I mean? He hasn't called me back, so he probably won't now. But this is what I'm saying, Mads, babies, depression, there we are. It's a very serious thing. There we are, very serious indeed. Okay? So, I've done my little fairy bit today, Mads, babies. So, I've advised a younger generation on how they can go about, meeting their future wife or the future girlfriend. Do you understand what I mean? Okay, but he's got to stop looking back in the past, okay? Because you look back in the past, it doesn't serve a purpose. Please do not get me wrong. The past is what makes us. There we are, who we are today, each and every one of us. Because it doesn't matter where we're from. I do not mean that rude or disrespectfully. The fact is, everybody has some sort of past. Everybody has some sort of baggage, no matter who they are. Do you know what I mean? But there's no point looking back in the past or say, for an example, missing an ex-girlfriend because you're feeling down. Do you see what I mean, Mads? Babies? Because, as an example, you obviously split up for a reason, whoever it would be. Do you see what I mean? And if there's no way back, then there's no way back. Do not pass go. Do you understand what I mean, Mads? Babies, okay? But I found that as well when I used to do so many readings, hundreds upon hundreds of readings, Mads, babies, and you generally find that for some, they do get down because when they're at a low point, that's when they go back and reminisce. But if it was meant to be, they wouldn't be coming for a reading with myself for a start, or any other reader for that matter, because they would be back with their boyfriend or girlfriend, wouldn't they, or husband or wife. Do you see what I mean? It's ding ding dong dong common sense, really. So, but I've known many instances like that. But I said to him, I said, but you must push forward. So hopefully he'll snap out of it. But there's certain names, especially uh, men's names, okay, that doesn't mean that Martinistic babies, who they do tend to, I don't know what it is about the name, I will not say the name, as you very well know, sweet, my little lovelies, I will not. Out of respect for who called me today. Um, but you do not know him, but anyway, it's just very disrespectful to do so. Do you understand what I mean? But there's something about certain names. They do seem to get depressed more. Certain with certain names. I don't know what it is. Whenever I've met that particular, not in that way, not in that way. Whenever I've met that particular name over my decades, they've usually always suffered, there we are, with some form of depression. Far more than, say, another name. Do you understand what I mean? It's really quite odd. And of course, I've noticed things like this over the years, you know what I mean? Same with women's names. It's quite strange, really. Do you understand what I mean? How a name can be attached to somebody, but for some reason it seems to do something that we are to their personality. It's really hard for me to explain. I mean, I'm done explaining it, but I know what I mean. So it was better for myself not to blank the call. I had to lishtick babies, you know what I mean? Because if I heard something would have happened, I would have felt, like a right flipping cow. Do you understand what I mean? Okay, so that's not very nice at all either. But I've given the best advice I could give. There's nothing more I can say, my delicious little babies. But it does go to show, and not this isn't the first time my delicious little babies, okay? Because believe it or not, I have had many men, not in that way, not in that way, many men over my decades who have come for a reading. And the thing is, they do not seem to have many women to talk to. So they say, well, you would know because you're a woman. Do you see what I mean? Okay. So I should imagine for some it's quite a lonely, meaning this in a nicest way possible, in their noddle. It's very lonely for them because for men, they cannot talk like how women do. For most women, unless the woman just keeps everything to herself, for most, women, they'll have a chin wag with their friends, you know what I mean? They're chatty, 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 you know what I mean? Get it all off their chest and feel hunky-dory, tickety-boo. Do you see what I'm saying, okay? But for most men, it's not that way, and they do tend to, there we are, hold it in. Do you see what I mean, Martin? Babies, okay? So I said to him, he explained, a bit about his ex girlfriend. Anyway, that's another matter. But I just said to him, I said, life is lessons, isn't it? You learn lessons and then you move on, don't you? Do you understand what I mean? Simple things. So let's hope that with himself and any other men out there, Mardelishtik babies, that they get somebody to talk to. So that they're not carrying that load, because that's what it is, isn't it? It feels like a load of bricks on your back. Do you understand what I mean? Like you're carrying a rucksack of bricks, because if you cannot talk to anybody about how you're feeling, it can be a very lonely place, Martelishtic babies, and let me tell you, there's millions upon millions who suffer. And women as well, Martelishtic babies, but I just found with a lot of women, they do have let's just say an inner strength. I'm not saying that men do not, so please do not take me wrong with what I'm saying, but with women, they're more inclined, there we are, to get on with things. Do you understand what I mean? Just let it get over your head and just be done getting on with everything. Do you understand what I mean? Okay. And then usually, a little help from your friends and everything else, and it blows over, and then that's it. You just, job done. You pick yourself up, you brush yourself down, and you start all over again. But with men, it seems to run much deeper. Do you know what I mean, Marsdalishtic babies? So if you happen to know anybody who is suffering, I'm not here to depress anyone, Marsdalishtic babies. I'd never ever do that, okay? But I feel, there we are, this is very important to discuss. But if you do know somebody who's suffering depression, okay, um, if you cannot answer the dog and bone and you're not very busy, please, there we are, answer that dog and bone. Do you know what I mean? Okay, mad babies, because I have talked to many who suffer with depression over the decades. And all you can do is give a listening ear. If they ask you for your advice, there we are, you give your advice, and that is what you can do. Okay? There's an old-fashioned saying, isn't there, my delicious little babies, and that's a problem shared is a problem halved. There we are, and it is very true. Do you know what I mean, my delicious babies? And that's on my video. So whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, please have a super duper delicious time. You only get one life, my little honey bunnies. Sending peace, love, harmony, and bright blessings to each and every one of you. May your beautiful little selves, your beautiful little families, may you all be fully protected. And how I love you also. You're so beautiful, wonderful, and delicious, and I'll love you. Okay, my delicious babies. So if it is night time, my delicious babies, night, sleep tight, watch the bed bugs don't bite, okay? And if it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, you know what I mean? So it could be different hours, couldn't it? I don't know how all that works, by the way. We're still trying to work that one out, aren't we, my delicious babies, anyway? Time zones and everything, you know what I mean? Anyway, my delicious babies, but whatever o'clock it is, and wherever you are, if you are going to, be jumping, it's only a figure of speech, my delicious babies. It's an old-fashioned Irish saying. If it is night time and you are going to jump into your cots, be away with the butterflies and fairies, have a super duper rested night's sleep. And for everybody else, different hours with time zones and everything, I hope that you too have a super delicious and wonderful time wherever you are in the world as well. Okay? So until my next video, so much love. Take care. Thank you for listening once again. Love ya. Goodbye.